Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered where those worry lines came from? Or found yourself lying awake at night, your mind racing with concerns that seem to grow bigger in the darkness? If that sounds familiar, you're certainly not alone. The truth is, stress doesn't discriminate by age, but how we experience it and manage it can change dramatically as we journey through life. Hello there, and welcome to today's video. I'm so glad you've joined me today as we explore something that affects all of us, but perhaps resonates especially deeply with those of us who've collected a few more years of wisdom. Stress, that unwelcome companion that can make even the sunniest days feel cloudy and dim. You know, when I turned 70 a few years ago, I had this moment of clarity. I realized I'd spent decades, literally decades, carrying around worries, anxieties, and stresses that didn't serve me at all. They were like heavy stones in my pocket that I'd been lugging around for so long, I'd forgotten they were even there. And I thought to myself, if not now, then when? When will I finally put down this unnecessary burden? That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. How to rediscover joy, peace, and yes, even adventure in this beautiful chapter of life. Because believe me when I say that your 70s can truly be some of the happiest years of your life, if you know how to let go of what's weighing you down. In this video, we'll explore 6 practical proven ways to release stress and rekindle your love for life. These aren't complicated techniques that require special equipment or training. They're simple shifts in how you approach your days that can transform your experience from the inside out. So let's begin with our first approach to becoming happier at 70 and beyond. Embracing the power of the present moment. You know, for much of our lives, we're encouraged to plan ahead, to save for the future, to prepare for what's coming next. And there's wisdom in that, certainly. But there comes a point where constantly living in tomorrow robs us of the joy that's available right now, today. I remember my dear friend Margaret, who spent her entire career as an elementary school teacher. She told me once that she'd spent 40 years looking forward to retirement, imagining all the things she would do when she finally had the time. But when that day came, she found herself constantly worrying about whether she had enough saved, how long her health would hold out, what might go wrong in the years ahead. All that anticipation had transformed into anxiety, and she couldn't enjoy the very freedom she'd worked so hard to achieve. The breakthrough came for her when her 8-year-old granddaughter asked her a simple question. "Grandma, why do you look so worried all the time? Aren't you happy to see me?" That innocent observation was like a splash of cold water. Margaret realized she was missing precious moments with her family because her mind was always elsewhere, fretting about things that might never happen. That's the thing about worry. It asks us to solve problems that don't exist yet and might never exist. It pulls us out of the only moment we're guaranteed, this one, right here. So what can we do instead? Practice presence. Start small. When you're having your morning coffee or tea, really taste it. Feel the warmth of the cup in your hands. Listen to the birds outside your window or the comfortable sounds of your home. When you're talking with a friend or family member, really listen. Not just waiting for your turn to speak, but truly hearing them. You might be surprised how much richer life becomes when you're actually present for it. The sunset is more vivid, conversations are more meaningful. Even ordinary moments take on a certain sweetness when you're fully there to experience them. Now, this doesn't mean ignoring legitimate concerns or failing to plan appropriately, but there's a difference between thoughtful preparation and anxious rumination. One empowers us, the other depletes us. The second way to let go of stress and embrace happiness in your 70s and beyond is something I call right-sizing your responsibilities. Many of us, especially those who've spent decades caring for others, raising children, supporting partners, building careers, volunteering in our communities, have developed a habit of taking on more than we need to. We've become so accustomed to being needed that we sometimes struggle to distinguish between what's truly our responsibility and what isn't. I see this often with parents of adult children. There's this delicate balance between offering support and allowing grown children to find their own way, make their own mistakes, and solve their own problems. When we continue to shoulder their burdens, Not only do we add unnecessary stress to our own lives, but we also subtly communicate that we don't trust them to handle things themselves. My neighbor Walter, a retired surgeon, spent years worrying about his son's financial decisions. He'd lie awake at night calculating how he could help if his son's business failed, what assets he might need to liquidate, how this might affect his own retirement security. The stress was literally making him ill. His blood pressure spiked, his acid reflux flared up, and the constant worry etched new lines into his face. The turning point came when his daughter-in-law gently but firmly told him, "Dad, we appreciate your concern, but this is our journey. We'll figure it out, even if we stumble along the way." It was difficult for Walter to step back, but when he finally did, two remarkable things happened. His health improved dramatically, and his relationship with his son transformed from one of anxiety and subtle judgment to one of mutual respect. This principle applies beyond family relationships too. Many of us take on community obligations, volunteer commitments, or even household tasks out of habit or a sense of duty, without considering whether they still align with our energy levels, interests, or current life circumstances. I'm not suggesting abandoning responsibilities that matter to you. Rather, I'm inviting you to thoughtfully examine which obligations truly deserve your precious time and energy at this stage of life, and which ones might be better shared with others or released entirely. Ask yourself, is this truly mine to carry? Does this commitment still bring me joy or purpose? Am I doing this out of habit, obligation, or authentic desire? Right-sizing your responsibilities isn't selfish, it's sustainable. It creates space for you to contribute where it matters most to you, without spreading yourself so thin that you have nothing left for your own well-being. And speaking of well-being, that brings us to our third pathway to happiness after 70, honoring your body exactly as it is today. Let's be honest with each other for a moment. Our relationship with our bodies changes as we age, doesn't it? The knees that once effortlessly carried us up mountains might now protest at a flight of stairs. The eyes that could read fine print without a second thought now reach for reading glasses. The back that never complained now occasionally reminds us it's there. It's easy to fall into a pattern of frustration or even resentment toward these changes. I've caught myself thinking, why can't my body just work the way it used to? Perhaps you've had similar thoughts. But I've learned that this resistance, this wishing things were different, is itself a significant source of stress. What if, instead, we approached our changing bodies with gratitude and gentle care? What if we honored what they can still do, rather than focusing on what they can't? I remember meeting Elaine at a community workshop a few years ago. At 78, she had been a dancer in her youth, and she carried herself with remarkable grace. When I complimented her posture, she shared something I'll never forget. "I used to push my body relentlessly," she told me. "When arthritis made it impossible to dance the way I once did, I was bitter. I'd push through pain, trying to force my body to perform, and end up bedridden for days afterward." Her transformation came when a physical therapist asked her a simple question: what if you listened to your body instead of fighting it? This led Elaine to discover chair yoga, water exercises, and gentle stretching routines that worked with her body's new reality instead of against it. "Now," she said with a smile, "I dance differently, but I still dance." That wisdom applies to all of us. Maybe we can't run marathons anymore, but we can enjoy a leisurely walk in nature. Perhaps we can't hear every word at a crowded restaurant, but we can have meaningful conversations in quieter settings. Our bodies are changing, yes, but they still carry all our hopes, dreams, memories, and love. They deserve our kindness, not our criticism. Practical ways to honor your body include establishing gentle movement routines that feel good, whether that's swimming, walking, gardening, dancing in your living room, or simply stretching each morning. Listen to your body's signals. Rest when you need to without guilt. Nourish yourself with foods that provide energy rather than depleting it. And perhaps most importantly, speak kindly about your body, even when it's challenging. The words we use, even in our own minds, have remarkable power. Now, our fourth path to happiness after 70 involves something many of us struggle with: letting go of old hurts and resentments. If you've lived 7 decades or more, chances are you've accumulated some emotional wounds along the way. Perhaps a family member said something cruel during a holiday dinner 20 years ago. Maybe a colleague took credit for your work just before you retired. Perhaps a friend betrayed your trust, or a neighbor sparked a dispute that never fully resolved. These hurts, large and small, can become like emotional splinters that we carry with us year after year. We might think we've forgotten them, but then something triggers the memory, and we feel that same rush of anger, shame, or sadness all over again. I'm reminded of Frank, a 75-year-old retired postal worker I met at a community center. Frank had barely spoken to his brother in over 30 years because of a disagreement about their mother's care in her final years. Whenever he talked about it, his face would flush, his hands would clench, and you could see the stress physically manifesting in his body. When his brother suffered a minor heart attack, Frank reluctantly visited him in the hospital. What he discovered surprised him. His brother, now frail and vulnerable, seemed like a different person from the adversary he'd constructed in his mind. During that brief visit, Frank realized something profound. The person suffering most from this 3-decade grudge was him. His brother had moved on, built a life, enjoyed his grandchildren, while Frank had carried this heavy burden of resentment everywhere he went. I didn't forgive him because he deserved it, Frank later told me. I forgave him because I deserved peace. That's the thing about forgiveness that's often misunderstood. It's not about saying what happened was okay. It's not about reconciling if the relationship isn't healthy. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of carrying that hurt day after day, year after year. Now, I'm not suggesting that forgiveness is simple or that it happens overnight. Some wounds run very deep, and professional support from a counselor or therapist can be invaluable in processing them. But even beginning the journey toward forgiveness, becoming willing to consider releasing that grip on old hurts, can bring remarkable relief. And forgiveness isn't just about major life events. It's also about the small daily irritations, forgiving the store clerk who was rude, the driver who cut you off, or even yourself for making a mistake or forgetting something. These many forgivenesses prevent stress from accumulating in our bodies and minds. One practice I found helpful is to do a brief resentment inventory periodically. I simply ask myself, what am I still carrying that I could put down? Who am I still angry with? What past disappointment am I still revisiting? Once identified, I can work with these feelings more consciously, perhaps writing a letter that I never send, talking with a trusted friend, or simply acknowledging the hurt and deliberately choosing to release it. Research shows that people who practice forgiveness not only experience less stress, but also enjoy better cardiovascular health, improved immune function, and even better sleep quality. It seems our bodies recognize the freedom that comes with letting go, even before our minds fully catch up. The 5th pathway to rediscovering joy after 70 is one that might surprise you. It's about embracing purposeful solitude. Now, I want to be clear about something right away. I'm not talking about isolation or loneliness, which can be genuinely harmful to our well-being. I'm talking about the deliberate practice of spending quality time in your own company. Many of us, particularly those who've spent decades in busy households or demanding careers, have had precious little experience with constructive solitude. We've become so accustomed to external stimulation from other people, from television, from phones and computers, that being alone with our own thoughts can feel uncomfortable or even anxiety-producing. Yet some of life's richest gifts await us in these quiet moments. Clarity about what truly matters to us, creative inspirations we might never hear above life's constant noise, a deeper connection with our authentic selves. Clara, a 76-year-old retired teacher, told me that after her husband passed away, she initially filled every moment of her day with activities and social engagements, afraid to face the emptiness of her home. I was running from myself, she admitted, but eventually, physical exhaustion forced her to slow down. She began, tentatively at first, to create small pockets of solitude in her days. She started with just 15 minutes each morning, sitting with her coffee by the window, watching the neighborhood come to life. No television, no radio, no phone, just presence. Those 15 minutes gradually extended as she discovered something unexpected. She enjoyed her own company. She began taking herself on artist dates to museums, trying new restaurants alone, and even traveling solo to places she'd always wanted to visit. I discovered parts of myself I never knew existed, she told me, interests and perspectives that had been dormant while I was busy being a wife, mother, and teacher. I'm not just surviving on my own, I'm thriving. Clara's experience isn't unusual. Many people discover in their 7th and 8th decades that solitude, when approached with intention rather than feared as isolation, offers a special kind of freedom. The freedom to set your own pace without accommodating others' preferences. The freedom to change your mind without explanation. The freedom to follow your curiosity wherever it leads. Practical ways to cultivate purposeful solitude include creating morning or evening rituals that are just for you. Perhaps it's writing in a journal, practicing meditation, enjoying a cup of tea in your garden, or taking a solitary walk at sunset. Start with small increments of time if being alone feels uncomfortable, and gradually extend as you discover the richness that can exist in these quiet moments. If you've been experimenting with solitude and finding value in it, you might also discover it creates space for our 6th and final pathway to happiness after 70, reconnecting with wonder and play. Do you remember what it felt like to be a child discovering something for the first time? The absolute marvel of seeing a butterfly emerge from its chrysalis, or watching a thunderstorm roll across the sky, or tasting ice cream for the very first time. That sense of wonder and delight doesn't have to disappear with age. In fact, I'd argue that our capacity for wonder can deepen as we gain the wisdom to truly appreciate life's extraordinary gifts. Yet somewhere along the way, many of us absorb the message that play, curiosity, and childlike wonder should be left behind with childhood. We became serious adults with important responsibilities. Fun was scheduled, contained, and often tied to achievements or special occasions rather than woven into the fabric of everyday life. What if we reclaimed that sense of playfulness and wonder? What if, instead of seeing our age as a limitation, we saw it as an invitation to return to a more spontaneous, joyful way of being in the world? I think of my friend Harold, who spent 40 years as an accountant. Numbers, spreadsheets, tax codes, that was his world. When he retired at 68, he felt oddly adrift without the structure of his work life. His days stretched before him, empty and somewhat intimidating. On a whim, he accompanied his grandson to a model rocket launch at a local park. As he watched the boy's face light up when the rocket soared into the sky, something shifted in Harold. He found himself volunteering to help with the next launch, then researching rocket designs online, then ordering parts for his own creation. I never had time for hobbies before, he told me, his eyes twinkling with excitement as he described the aerodynamics of his latest design. Now I'm part of a whole community of rocket enthusiasts. We meet monthly. There are people in their 20s and people in their 80s. Nobody cares about my resume or my age. They just want to know if my rocket will fly higher than theirs. What struck me about Harold's story wasn't just that he'd found a new hobby, it was the transformation in his entire being. The playfulness he discovered through model rocketry spilled over into other areas of his life. He became more spontaneous, more willing to try new things, more present with his grandchildren. His chronic shoulder pain, which had bothered him for years, became less noticeable as his attention shifted to things that brought him joy. Now, I'm not suggesting you need to take up model rocketry specifically. The question is, what sparks your curiosity? What activity so absorbs your attention that you lose track of time? What makes you laugh or fills you with a sense of possibility? Maybe it's learning to play a musical instrument you've always admired from afar. Perhaps it's exploring watercolor painting or pottery. It could be bird watching, stargazing, or learning about ancient civilizations. The specific activity matters less than the qualities it evokes in you. Curiosity, presence, enjoyment, and that beautiful childlike absorption in the moment. And don't worry about being good at whatever you choose. The point isn't mastery or achievement, it's the experience itself. As the saying goes, anything worth doing is worth doing badly at first. Give yourself permission to be a beginner, to make mistakes, to create something imperfect, but uniquely yours. I've found that this approach to life, cultivating wonder and embracing play, is perhaps the most powerful antidote to stress that exists. When we're fully engaged in something that delights us, worries naturally recede. The body relaxes, breath deepens. We return to the natural state of being that is our birthright, regardless of age. So as we bring all these pathways together, embracing the present moment, right-sizing our responsibilities, honoring our bodies, letting go of old hurts, cultivating purposeful solitude, and reconnecting with wonder and play, I hope you can see how they interweave to create a tapestry of greater peace and joy in this beautiful chapter of life. These practices aren't about denying reality or pretending that life after 70 doesn't include challenges. Of course it does. Bodies change. Loved ones pass away. The world shifts in ways that can feel disorienting. But within these realities, we still have choices about how we meet each day, what we focus on, and how we care for our precious hearts and minds. I'm reminded of something my grandmother used to say. Well into her 90s, with gnarled hands from arthritis and eyesight that was failing, she would still wake each morning and declare, "It's a good day to be alive." When I asked her once how she maintained such a positive outlook despite her physical challenges, she smiled and said, "Dear, I decided long ago that I could focus on what's wrong, or I could focus on what's right. Both exist. I just choose where to place my attention." That wisdom, so simple yet so profound, has guided me through my own journey of aging. Yes, there are aches and pains that weren't there before. Yes, there are losses that sometimes take my breath away. But there is also the indescribable sweetness of a life fully lived, the depth of love that comes from decades of connection, the perspective that allows me to see what truly matters and let go of what doesn't. And perhaps that's the greatest gift of this time of life, the clarity to distinguish between the essential and the superficial. When we release the need to impress others, the drive to acquire more possessions, the exhausting effort to maintain appearances, we discover an unexpected lightness of being. We find ourselves with more energy for joy, more capacity for love, more presence for the simple pleasures that make life rich. So I invite you, as you move through your days, to experiment with these 6 pathways. Notice which ones resonate most strongly with you. Be patient with yourself as you practice letting go of stress patterns that may have been with you for decades. Remember that it's never too late to choose a different way of being in the world, to choose joy, to choose peace, to choose love. Start small. Perhaps choose just one pathway that speaks to you and explore it for a week or 2. Notice what changes, both subtle and profound. Then, when you're ready, incorporate another. These aren't quick fixes or surface-level solutions. They're invitations to a deeper way of living that honors the wisdom and worth of your 7 or 8 or 9 decades on this earth. I'd love to hear about your experiences with these practices. What resonates with you? What challenges have you encountered in letting go of stress? What unexpected joys have you discovered? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear today. And if you found value in this conversation, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more content on living fully at every age. We're building a community here of people who believe that our later years can be among our very best, and your voice is an important part of that conversation. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Remember, stress doesn't have to be your constant companion in this chapter of life. You've earned the right to days filled with more peace, more purpose, and yes, more joy than you might have thought possible. Here's to being happier at 70 and beyond, because the best is not behind you. In many ways, it's just beginning.